Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League of Europe YouTube channel for round 12 of Season 5 of Division 2. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Carmensis. I'll be taking you through proceedings here tonight on a Saturday, and joining me once again in the commentary box is D2 regular Mr. Daka230. Daka, how are you doing this evening, mate?
Thank you very much, Aidan. You see how easily we can switch roles as if nothing else happened. But yes, thank you very much, Aidan, for bringing us in. And of course, very much looking forward to the action out on track once again, this time at Bahrain. We are now very deep into the season, 5 races to go, including this one, the championship. Still very, very tight up front then. There's still a lot to play for after our thriller last time out in Spain. Can't wait to see how things unfold. And if previous history at Bahrain is anything to go by, we should be in for another cracker here tonight. Can't wait to get into it in just a few minutes' time.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting race. D2 this season has been incredibly close throughout the field. Just a note, by the way, we were talking before the stream about me not getting the stream title wrong. I got it wrong anyway. So, anyway, it is Division 2. It isn't Division 3 like the title says. I just raced in Division 3, which is why it says that. So, ignore that. We got over that, so if anyone asks, that's why it's like that. Anyway, moving on. Division 2 has been a really, really good season, hasn't it? We've had so many ups and downs, so many different winners, so many different people fighting at the front of the field, but we now really have a three-way fight for the championship at the moment. Larkin leads the way by 16 points now over Matu 40 after the first time since France round 8, the first time last week that Larkin didn't win. A 5th place finish last time out. Matu 40 got his second 3rd place finish in a row, and Packer, for the first time this season, didn't score points after an unfortunate incident with Scuderia Seb at the end of the race, which means officially no one has scored points in every round of the season now. So that is just a little fact that I got reminded of. So that is one thing to note going into this round. No one is now consistent enough to score points across the board, and Larkin finally hasn't won a race for a while. So it seems like momentum has finally stopped being in his favour.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see how the next steps are going to unfold at this round that we're now going into now. Of course, Matt T40, out of our 3 runaway championship contenders, he finished the highest last time out, but that can all change. But certainly Larkin, he's shown he's not been invincible in the second half of the season. 3-race winning streak comes to an end. Of course, that was interrupted by the brilliant defensive drive of Arcolo last time out, who kind of overcame the demons in Spain. He's, of course, back on the grid here tonight. But, of course, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on our championship protagonists as we now look towards the first stage of the action here tonight for qualifying. 18 minutes, of course, in front of us here at Bahrain. And so qualifying is going to be very, very intriguing. And in the twilight of Sakir, we now look to get into it. 90 drivers on the line, ready to go here, and a qualifying session that maybe isn't the most important on the calendar, because unlike a lot of other tracks in the game, Bahrain, quite easy to overtake. Then if you're on pole position, you're certainly not guaranteed to hold on to it.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. 3 DRS zones ahead of these drivers, down to turn 1, to turn 4, and into turn 11. So like you say, a lot of opportunities for overtakes around this track. So pole position, not that crucial, especially as well with a long run into turn 1, and turn 1 being the slowest corner on the track as well, means that it's fairly easy to outdrag people and outbrake them into the first corner of the first lap as well. So that is one thing to note for in this race, that qualifying may not be that important. One thing to note here as well, though, is strategy. While it is a fairly easy one-stop strategy around this track, 2 stops are possible if you are fast enough to pull them off, and a 1 stop as well. If you're starting on the softs, you're more than likely to go to the hards. If you're at the back of the field, you can go hard or medium at the start of the race. Both strategies are relatively similar in pace, but if you can get the hard compound tyres up to temperature and into working range fairly easy on, the hard to medium strategy could be incredibly powerful at the end of the race, couldn't it?
Yes, certainly, and of course that's what we're going to be looking for those guys outside of the top 10 in the field. But of course, expected the qualifying session, we should have just about everyone on the soft tyres, and yeah, but it's not the highest tyre deck track, not the lowest, so it's going to make strategy very, very intriguing to behold then. First up on the track here in the qualifying session, as per usual, QVR Packer. Well, if there's one championship he's winning this season, it would certainly be getting on the track the quickest, but he's going to get up now. First up to the marks then, as you're our resident streamer for tonight. I'll let you run it through it, Aidan. First lap of the session now, gearing up for it. Championship contender QVR Packer over the line. Let's see what he can do to kick off this qualifying session for the Alfa Romeo man. Over the line now. Let's see how he gets on then. First lap on the board, let's see what he can do.
Yeah, it takes us through the international circuit of Bahrain, heading down the pit straight, then in towards turn 1, breaks it just before the 100-metre marker, down into the apex of turn 1, through turn 2. Really easy to lose the rear of the car on traction, but nice and neat through there from the Alfa Romeo driver, up into the second DRS zone, down towards turn 4. Another great overtaking opportunity into this corner. Doesn't touch the curb on the inside line, dips away on the exit of the corner just a little bit, so it's easy to spin the wheels there again. End of the first sector, so 27.5. Look for people to be in the 3s and the 2s in the first sector, so not the best first sector from Packer as he goes down the hill into turn 8. Little bit of a lock-up on the inside, but that's expected into such a heavy braking zone. Turn 9 and 10, another corner. It's incredibly easy to lock up at as he goes into 10, and Packer proves my point. Lock up into turn 10, gets the car into the apex zone nicely. Down the third of the 3 DRS straights now, in towards turn 11, probably the least powerful of the 3 because the straight isn't quite that long and the braking zone for 11 isn't that deep as he heads into 11 through up towards turn 12. Don't touch the curb on the inside of this corner, it can spit you out the other side. Heavy braking then into turn 13, 1 minute 3.999 at the end of the second sector. There's about half a second off what we'll probably see as the benchmark here today so far. Heading down the back straight then in towards turn 14 and 15. 15 not really a corner, just a kink on the exit of this one. Heads through 15 then and up towards the line. It's a fairly neat lap to start off the session from Packer. Comes up towards the line, it's a 24.988. We would imagine we're going to see people dipping into the low 24s in this session. Nolan crosses the line just behind, a tenth of a second slower in the Williams car. One of the Haas cars is next to cross the line, that's Falk just starting his first one. One of the Ferraris up to the line now, that is Assassin. He goes on to provisional pole in a 24.8, so a tenth clear of Packer at the front. Ryan slots himself into third in the Mercedes. His teammate Dylan crossed the line, but I think invalidated his first run. Spag crosses the line, takes provisional pole by half a tenth of a second. Larkin crosses the line, only a 25 flat, so he goes into P6. At the moment, relatively close, but like I mentioned, we're likely to see people dip into the low 24s.
Yeah, expect much quicker times, of course. Everyone looking to just get a bit of a feel or a sighter out there on the track before the real fun begins later on in the qualifying session. To the line is the Ferrari of Exil Noonan. He goes second quickest on a 24.8, just in behind Spag. Spag, of course, not having the season he would have wanted. He'll look for better fortunes tonight in the Renault, and he has for the moment up at the top of the team sheet. As I say that, replaced by Matthew 40, one of the strongest qualifiers, one of the strongest racers in the division. He is to the top comfortably at 24.6 early on in the session, but of course we've still got a lot more to be seen there. I think that's going to be Jim up to the line. He's just getting a lap all kicked off. Going to go at it a little bit further down. Let's see who's far along then. Far Falcon, the Haas, is coming up towards the final turn now. Let's see how he nails the apex of turn 14. Fighting for traction through the exit. Just about holds on to it now. To the line is Far Falcon. Crosses the line only 11th though on a 125.1. So about just over half the field into the 24s early on, pretty close. But Matt, in a bit of a world of his own at the times then, he's got this session off to a really good start. But it looks like a couple of drivers getting off their laps then, not quite following through with them. It's going to be interesting to see how many are going to get lap times in early. Excel Gary up to the line, 25.1 is only 11th. For the McLaren driver behind that, Vapor TDB, he was at 103.9, middle sector, crosses, goes 6th. On a 24.9, just in front of his teammate by just 100th of a second. So there, I imagine, are most of the initial lap times. Matty 40 up front, 2/10 clear. It's a big margin in Division 2, but we should see a lot more. Everyone getting those cider laps in. The early benchmark for Matt, but I sense that 24.6 will not stand for the next 12 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine. So it's going to be really, really close throughout the session. Throughout the times we've set so far, from second all the way down to 13th at the moment, only 3/10 covers those 11 drivers. It's incredibly close. Matthew 40, like you say, though, just a little bit detached at the front. 2/10 clear, almost exactly. Doom crosses the line. He did invalidate his run, but it would have been a 25 flat, so he would have slotted himself just in front of Nolan into 10th place. So it wouldn't have been the best of laps. Last week's race winner, Arcolo, is going to be onto a lap now, so we'll ride on board with AlphaTauri driver. Dan, take us to a lap on board with the AlphaTauri.
So looking towards that braking zone into turn one, hits the brakes just before the 100-meter board into second gear. He meets the apex nicely, then traction critical through the exit. Don't want to let the car get away from you. Arcola holds on to it and opens up the DRS for the second time in the lap, powering down towards turn four then, using a bit of the curb on the outside then. Nice line at turn four, hitting the apex cleanly, and then through the exit is nice and smooth also. 27.3 is a good time heading through that first sector. You can see him fighting the car through 7, holds on to it through the exit, on to the brakes again. Turn 8 then, nice and clean then, no lock up on the right front, bit of traction, the rear tyres slipping but he holds it together. Now in a turn 9, very aggressive entry, but he is able to just about hold it, let him out wide to the apex, onto the throttle now, short shifting up the gears to find that grip of the rear tyres again, DRS open again, up towards the second part of the lap as you will, then turn 11, first up then, keeps waiting and waiting, gonna try keep it on the road, turn 12 again, watch that curve over the inside then, middle centre, 4037, it's quick, but is it going to be quick enough? He's a little bit wide of the apex, heading through turn 13, but it's clean through the exit, now he prepares himself for turns 14 and a kick of 15, if you keep it tight enough, you should be good through this kick then, so he makes the apex, keeps it tight, and now to the line he will power then, Nikos Arcola, qualifying specialist, last week's race winner, to the line, goes second on a 24-7, so up onto the front row, solid from Arcola, but still Matt up top then, a 24-6, he's going to be looking to get up there, and looking for that championship to close out that gap to Larkin up front. Good start from Matt, and he's got his rivals Packard down in 8th, Larkin all the way down in 12th. So Larkin in particular, a lot of work to do. We know what he can do from lower down on the grid, but there's a lot to do. Just under half the session gone. Matthew 40 is up the front though, and just like in qualifying for Spain, so far his championship rivals haven't been able to get the laps they wanted just yet.
Yeah, they're not looking too strong at the moment. Packer is on another lap, a 10th up in the first sector. A huge lock-up, though, in towards turn 10. Didn't quite get the car started very well. Unfortunately, Gary has left the session, so fingers crossed he can get back in before qualifying is finished. Matthew 40 then on pole currently. Arcolo slotted in that gap in between Matthew 40 and Spag absolutely perfectly by being a 10th slower than Matt and a 10th faster than Spag. Packer through the second sector, nearly 2 tenths up on his time now, so he's finding a good amount of time so far on this lap. This could put him into position to maybe challenge for the front row against Arcolo. Definitely could put him into third place if he can nail this final corner. Comes up towards turn 14 and then through the kink of 15. A yellow flag in sector 3. That's for one of the racing point cars, and Gary has been disqualified for parking in a dangerous location. Such a shame for Gary. Packer crosses the line, goes P3 on a 24.8, just ahead of Spag, just behind Arcolo. That's much more like it from third place man in the championship, but still not quite able to get within touching distance of Matthew 40.
Yeah, Matt himself will be looking for improvements on this second run as well. But now, speaking of the second run, so we've got a lot more to come in now, as Gary does get back in a session, but he was the lobby host before, so there may be a little bit of issues. Let's hope they don't kick in too much. But Gary, of course, as you mentioned, so unfortunate. Out the session, going to need to try and fight it back. Now as we look on then, Matt Tibos coming up to the line. He crosses, goes third. Nice. Another driver into the 24.7s. Good lap for Matt Tibos then. Strong near the front. As now we look at XL Dillon crossing. Of course, he fought for the victory last time out, last season here. And he's showing that pedigree. Second at the moment then for the Mercedes man, but a lot more to be seen later on in the session. I think Larkin improved, but only minutely. Is still down at 10th position. Ferrari is next up to the line, and I think that may well have been XL Noon who just crossed the line. He is 7th on 8.24.8, just getting a lap time kicked off then. Behind it is Rakuriki, former championship leader, goes 9th as Gary out the session again. Looks like the connection just isn't holding up for him right now. We'll see if he can maybe lock it down before we get into the race, but Gary really struggling with that as it stands. Hopefully it can stabilise further down the line, but the second runs have gone through, a lot of them done, still more to come in, but Matthew 40 so far has held that pole position virtually unmatched by anyone else. He's on form tonight, Matthew 40. Up in the front, Dillon just half a 10th behind, but really strong from Matt. He's up in the second sector as well. The Red Bull man flying, and after a decent run of form, but maybe not what he would have hoped for in terms of the ultimate results, Matt is flying now to the final corner, up in the middle sector. What can he do in the last sector? Right in that curve at turn 15. To the line is the Red Bull man. Is it quicker? You bet it is. He goes to the top then, a 24.5 for Matt. Strong lap up the front then for the Red Bull. He's looking strong tonight, and it's up to his championship rivals to match up to it. Matt G40, desperate to get back in the fight. He's proving so then. 24.5 opens up with less than 7 minutes to go, and so far Matt G40 hasn't been touched. Still at the top of the timesheets. Can he hold on to it?
We've seen it so many times this season, though, where someone will come in with a late charge at the end of the session and steal pole position from underneath Matt's nose. Vapor TDB crosses the line, goes 9th fastest, as Noon now goes fastest on exactly the same lap time. My word. So Noon then to the front of the field, just as I was talking about someone nicking the pole position off him. Noon goes to the front of the field in the Ferrari. That's a brilliant lap time from Noon, who's midpoint in the season. He really has floundered in pace, started off really well. The midpoint, he just hasn't scored decent enough points. McCrass next one to improve, goes P4 in the Haas. It's incredibly close throughout the field, from Dylan in 3rd, pretty much all the way down to Falk in 16th. It's just under half a second covering the 14 drivers. It's incredibly close at the moment. Minute improvements could gain you a lot of places on track. I just wait to see who next person is who's going to come across the line and do a lap time. I think it might be Falk who's coming up to the line now in the Haas. Currently 16th, crosses the line, stays 16th. He lost a bit of time in that final sector, would have improved by a couple of tenths, wasn't able to follow the lap through. Assassin next to start a lap in the session. Yorno's on a lap currently, has struggled so much this season, has barely scored any points, and that's an invalidation coming out of turn 13 as I say that as well, so wouldn't have been able to improve. He's a little bit detached at the back of the field on a 25.4, just can't seem to find the time at the moment. Sway and Doom still yet to set times in this session as well. Just seeing who else is on laps. Arcola currently 5th, is on another lap, and he's nearly a 10th up in the first sector.
Arcola, we know how strong he can be over one lap. Can he put it together? He's much cleaner heading through turn 10 than he was the last time around. He's just under 2/10 off of that provisional pole time. He'll be eager to step up to the mark. Excel Noon, that must come down to tenths of thousands of a second. That gap between him and Matsu 40. Such is the competitiveness of this Division 2 grip. And Arcola is looking to try and blow them out of the water. And he is on it at the moment as Nolan goes in a P3.
Wow.
Very strong lap from the Williams man. He is looking to arrive, of course. Not the season he would have wanted either. But now, watch Ecos Arcolo round the final corner. Clean entry, clean enough exit. Now to the line he goes. It was 3/10 up middle sector. That's good storm to pole possession.
Wow.
And he tires. It's a 24.401. 1 3/4 of a tenth of a second clear. Arcola right to the top. 4 minutes to go. And I think that is the first lap times we've seen that is seriously going to trouble the rest of the field. Arcolo is topping the timesheets for the moment then. We'll look for more laps to come in further down the line. I think QVR Packer is on one in the middle sector. 10th up. He needs a big run to the last half of the lap 8 if he wants to try and improve. 10th at the moment. Needs to put himself up there. And with Matt P3, he'll be ever eager to put himself up in the front 2 rows as well.
Let's see what his middle sector is looking like through the sector points. Still only a 10th up at the moment. This could put him up ahead of McCrass in 7th, but that's still not really enough to be close enough to Matsu 40. Sway has retired from the pit lane on debut in the pit, so he is not going to be setting a lap. He's going to be at least 18th on the grid unless Doom can't get a lap in this session. Packer then around the final corner and up towards the line, and actually he's going to dive into the pit lane, so he didn't want to finish that lap. He's going to come in and throw another set of soft compound tyres on it for his final run in the session. Assassin also jumped up into P4 in the Ferrari, so a good lap from him. Both Ferraris 2nd and 4th at the moment, and Nolan, like you say, by far at the moment his best qualifying of the season in 5th, if he can hold on to that. Dylan in 6th ahead of McCrass, Spag, and Matt Tibos, and Packer rounds off the top 10. The other person in that 11th spot at the moment is TDB, who's been in that 11th spot quite a few times already this season, and sometimes it just hasn't worked out, especially this time last week after a major contact at turn 4. TDB taken out of a really good opportunity of a good points haul. J. Cole looks like he's going to be the first person to start his final run in qualifying, currently 15th. Larkin 13th, so our championship leader once again just doesn't seem to have the edge in qualifying.
But of course, he has got to try and find that bit of time then. Just 2/10 of a second, putting him in a competitive position. But will he want that top 10 start is the question. And it is going to be his teammate who's going to fondle with that dilemma first then. He is coming up towards the line now to kick things off. Then the final run of qualifying about to commence. You're going to see the peak of action here in this 18-minute session. Jacob's going to kick it off then. Over the line is the Racing Point, 15th at the moment. He'll look for much more. Crossing the line. Let's see what the Racing Point could do.
Yeah, it's going to be the first person then onto their final runs in qualifying. Everyone coming out of the pit lane now, leaving it very late in the session to come out for their final runs through turns 1 and turn 2. Then a little bit of a wobble on traction out of turn 1, but gets it through 2 and 3 nicely. Then up to the hill towards turn 4. What is his first sector going to look like? Currently on a 25 flat, in 15th at the moment. He's had a good season so far as J. Cole has outperformed his D3 Championship rival, you'll know from last season. He's a 10th down though in the first sector. He hasn't been able to find any time. Hits the curb on the inside of turn 7, gets away with it down towards turn 8. Little bit of a lock up and just a bit wide on the exit of the corner as well. Didn't get the optimal line. He's understeering quite heavily at the moment in that racing point. Maybe got something that's a bit faster in a straight line. Big lock up into 10 once again, but gets the car in towards the apex, down the back straight, then up towards turn 11. Has he been able to find any time in the middle part of this lap? Then through turn 11, nice 5th gear corner there, but again a lot of mid corner understeer for the racing point. Just understeers wide onto the exit of the track. It just doesn't look hooked up at the moment through the middle sector. He's not been able to recover that time he was lost in the first part of the lap. He's still 600ths of a second down at this point. Hops over the curb nicely on the exit of turn 13, up towards 14 and 15 then to finish off the lap. Where can he put himself on the grid? Hits the curb on the inside again, understeers midway through turn 14, doesn't get the best run out of the final corner, and up towards the line goes the racing point. It's a 25-1, doesn't improve, so 15th is the best that J. Cole can hope for in this qualifying session. Just didn't look hooked up in that racing point, did it?
Yeah, it was all over the place. You can see the overseer kicking in out of several of the traction zones. One man that's around him in terms of the session times, so having a much better time of it right now is Ariel Ryan, who was about 2 tenths up in that middle sector. So let's see what he can do then in the last sector, attacking the brakes, heading in at turn 14 then, trying to hold that exit. He does just about keeps it clean down to the lane as Ariel Ryan. 14, he pushes himself up, actually backs off over the lane and settles for 9. Now if he wants to get pushed out of that top 10, the question is Willie, as now we look for the final laps, the final runs here in qualifying. This is the moment of truth then, to get things rounded off. So who is going to be first up towards the marks then? We are looking there. I'm looking at June heading up towards the final few corners as now the clock will expire. Matthew 40 has not gone out for a last run. He is backed off the lap at the moment, so now we look for it. Exil Nun unable to improve. June crosses the line, goes second and fractionally off the top spot. Great lap from June, and again it's the Avataris up at the front of qualifying. Recurring goes sick in the Renault. Much better showing from him than we've seen in the past. Now we look further down the order then. Matt Tibos 3 tenths up, absolutely flying in the McLaren. He's almost inside the pole time. To the right is Matt Tibos, goes fit, just lost a bit of time in that last sector. Next up, Larkin needs a big lap here, crosses his 11th, but that may well be where he wants to be then. XL Dillon next up, goes third fastest on a 24.5. Is that going to be where his session ends though? Who is going to be next up then? I think that was McCross crossing the line. He is ninth at the moment then, and it was Packer. He puts in a big lap. P3 for the American. Yornos goes to the pit lane. He's backed off that lap. Spag, he put in his bag lap. He's not improved since then. Comes up to the line as 12th, just behind his teammate. Behind is the Ferrari then. Up towards the line as Ariel Assassin, third fastest in the Ferrari, as Arcolo is going even faster. And he is front pole on a 24.2. And as Felt crosses the line, I think that is it. Qualifying in the books. It's an AlphaTauri 1-2. As we saw in Canada, Arcolo heading it just over a 10 clear. Competitive qualifying session. June put in a great lap with Arcolo. Just a world apart in qualifying. He steps up to the plate, and in the end, out of the championship contenders, Packer a great lap for 4th. Matthew 40, not the final run. He's disappointed with 7. Packer goes up then. That is a dramatic qualifying session, and the man that held the fastest time at the midpoint in the session, XL Noon, 6th place, dramatic. Arcolo pole position. The question is, for the second week in a row, can he hold on to it? Can he make it 2 in a row? But 29 laps in front of him, that's going to be a real challenge to hold on to it.
There is something in that AlphaTauri that just unlocks in qualifying. The AlphaTauris have been so strong in qualifying all season long. Like I say, Arcolo finally able to break his duck and get that first win last time out. Doom hasn't been able to break that curse that's been hanging over him. Great in qualifying, really struggles in the race. But like I say, AlphaTauri front row lockout. Assassin third, I think, with probably one of his best qualifyings of the season so far as well. He is a pole sitter, I believe, this season, but that is one of his better performances. Packer in 4th in the end. Great improvement on that final lap, and he's the leader leader of our championship protagonists. Dylan 5th ahead of Noon in 6th. Matthew 40 couldn't improve on that final run. Crucial for him. He ends up in 7th because of that, ahead of the other Matt Tibos, who's in 8th. Nolan in 9th ahead of McCrass in 10th. TDB is in that 11th slot in the Alfa Romeo once again. Then it's Rekurik and Spag in the Renaults. Larkin only 14th on the grid. Ryan 15th ahead of Falcon 16th. J. Cole, Yorno, Sway and Gary round off the grid. And look at that, less than 6/10 covers first, down to 16th. Incredibly close. It's just Yorno and J. Cole at the back of the field that weren't quite able to break into that barrier. I don't think Gary also has been able to rejoin the lobby. I didn't see him rejoin at any point late on in that qualifying session, so we'll wait and see if he's able to get back in. But incredibly close qualifying, and of the championship protagonists, it's actually Packer that gets the best qualifying position.
Yeah, and of course, third in the championship, he'll look for more. So actually, in terms of the top three in the championship, their grid positions reversed from their championship position. So that's going to be intriguing. There's an opportunity of a bit of bunching. But of course, there's a couple of places separating Packer and Matt on the grid. That's going to be fascinating. And we know what Larkin can do from lowly grid positions. That iconic win at Singapore from last on the grid. Of course, that's happened twice this season. Matthew 40 took his only race victory after starting last on the grid. So we know what these championship protagonists can do. Even if their qualifying is compromised, they can fight their way through come the race. But now, racing is what we're about to get into. So 29 laps of the Bahrain International Circuit. And it is yet again an AlphaTauri front row lockout. But unlike with Arcolo last time out, where Spain is a much more difficult track to make overtakes done, Bahrain, very much not the case. He is going to have to really fight for this one as now they look towards the formation lap to get things kicked off. Arcolo leads Stu again from the front of the grid. We'll see what they can do then as outside of the top 10. Very intriguing. Got almost a unanimous selection of tyres then. Almost everyone opting for that hard strategy to get the race kicked off.
Yeah, that's a very bold strategy call from everybody, especially those in 11th and 12th. The gap in pace, especially in the opening 3 laps of this race between the softs and the hards, is quite big. It takes a while for these hard compound tyres to reach a working window around this track. Even though it is a hot track and the track surface tends to be quite abrasive, the fact that there's not a lot of high-speed corners means that it's difficult to get temperature in. So you'll see a lot of these hard compound runners weaving heavily on this formation lap, trying to get some life into those tyres. Gary, the only one who's on the mediums, but I don't think Gary is back in the lobby unless he is. I actually think he might be back in the lobby. Actually, he is. Just riding on board with him, he is back in the lobby by the looks of things, which means he's the only one outside the top 10 that has chosen a set of medium compound tyres. So he's going to be the one to look out for on this opening lap. The medium tyres will get up to working temperature much quicker, but he is going to have to gain a number of places very early on in this race if he wants to make this strategy work.
And more important than anything, he's got to try and keep all the bits on the car, keep that front wing intact, because we know how easy it is to make that error if you're just a little bit too ambitious. So Gary is going to have to watch himself, especially as he's going to be on the attack. He knows he needs to gain places. We'll see what he can do. Of course then, watching those hard runners, we'll see how they get the tyres switched on. As you mentioned, quite a pace gap, and getting them switched on does take a few laps, so that's going to allow the soft runners to pull away, because the softs aren't too bad around this track. They're not amazing, but they aren't the worst, certainly by any stretch of the imagination, on the calendar. So keep an eye out for that then. So people running the reverse strategy behind, the soft tyres at the front, makes for a fascinating race. Arcolo leads Jim towards the grid then, but it's a fairly long run at turn 1. You needed a good start to convert that. Both the AlphaTauris need to get off the line well. Getting a good start can really see you through here, and the position changes could always occur through the first few corners. Get so tight down there. Could be damage, but we'll see what happens. And they now go up to the grid. The Bahrain Grand Prix just seconds away as now we look to get it underway.
Yeah, let's see who's going to get the best start then into towards a long run in towards turn 1. Remember, it's a heavy braking zone for turn 1. Turn 2 narrows on the apex as well. So it is likely we could see a little bit of contact in these first few corners. Who's going to get the best start then of these soft runners on the first 2 rows? It's an AlphaTauri front row lockout. Assassin third ahead of Packer in 4th place. Here come the lights then ahead of the drivers. Who is going to get the best start from this race? It's lights out and away they go, and it looks like Jooms actually had the better of the starts. Assassin didn't really move off the line. Dylan from 5th on the grid has had a brilliant start in the Mercedes. He's already split the gap between the 2 drivers on the second row. Packer going down the inside of Joom at turn 1. Is he going to try and get that move stuck for 2? He is. So Packer up into 2nd place and 4th on the grid. A brilliant start for the Alfa Romeo driver. Arcolo holds the lead. Joom down to 3rd. Dylan up into 4th place. Noon up into 5th. Assassin, the man that struggled the most on the softs, he's down to 6th. And Matthew 40 trying to get down the inside. Dylan now has a move on Doom. Oh, and there's contact. Dylan forces Doom off the road. They both run off the road completely then. Doom's down into 11th. Dylan drops down into 8th place. That is such a shame after great qualifying and a good start for Dylan. And Dylan runs into the back of Matt Tibos in the process as well. That allows Mikras to go up the inside at turn 8. Can he get that move done? For turn 10 around the outside, Dylan might have to back out of this one. He's going to keep it down the inside though and hold that place. Dylan holds on to 8th, but it's a messy start for the Mercedes driver. Doom then down to 11th as well. Massively compromised by that. And our championship leader Larkin has dropped all the way to last. It's been a disastrous start to the race for our championship leader. Doom back up into 10th, passes TDB on those hard compound tyres, still trying to get him up to temperature. A little bit chaotic at the start of the race. Arcolo holds the lead, but crucially Packer up into 2nd place.
Yeah, Packer getting a great start there. Della getting elbows out there on the start, and that's put both him and Jim back down the field with a lot of work to do there. But Larkin, the worst fade out of anyone. He slips down the order trying to fight back against our foul, but it is Arcolo from Packer at the front then. And Matthew 40 also with a brilliant start up 3 places. 7th on the grid, now runs 4th, chasing down Excel Noon further up the road as now they move themselves onto the 2nd lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix. It is, as you mentioned, Arcolo maintains the race lead, but Packer right up behind him and looking to apply that pressure at P2 as they all slot their way throughout. You can see the battles further down the order as well as Recuric and Falk. They are the two drivers that are going up as TDB further up the order. He's spun it going through out of turn 3, I think that is. I'm not sure what's happened. Did he come into contact? Did he spin it on his own? Back goes the Alfa Romeo. Another disastrous start for another driver. It's Chaos and TDB without a front wing. I think it's a T-tree on that car now, but TDB is going to have to try and recover. It's disastrous starts for several of our drivers. Larkin slipping down the field. TDB going off. Mercuric and Falk getting it through, going through the pit lane. What a messy start to this Bahrain Grand Prix.
That is such a shame for TDB. He held on to that 11th place nicely on the hards. Just spun simply on his own coming through turn 2 and 3. Just lost it on traction and he is out of the running. What a shame. Once again, TDB in a great place to score some really good points and on an alternate strategy. And it's fallen away from him in the early phases of the race. That is such a shame for the Alfa Romeo driver. It's not over just yet though. A safety car could always bring him back into contention. At the front of the field, Arcolo still leads the way from Packer and Noon. Matthew 40 a little bit detached from the back of Noon in 4th place. Not looking like he's right on it at the moment, but I think he's just sitting and biding his time for the time being. Assassin in 5th, recovered somewhat after that poor start. Noon the fastest man on the track at the moment, then a 29.1 for the Ferrari driver. Looking pretty racy. He probably wasn't too happy with 5th on the grid. I think he probably could have thought he got more than that, but up to 3rd already, doing a good job. Who is the one struggling at the moment the most on the softs? It seems to be Mikras. He's the one that's got the biggest gap to the driver in front. Matt Tiboso behind him is not troubling him either. Doom recovers to 10th. Ryan's in 11th. He's the lead hard runner. Gary is already up to 12th. So that start for him on the medium tyres has worked out brilliantly for him. From the very back of the grid, 19th up to 12th. That could not have gone any better really for Gary.
Yeah, taking advantage of the chaos around, picking the spots where he could have. That is what we like to see from a former champion. And Gary runs well behind Ryan, who's also in a really good spot then. The leader of the hard trade by a good distance as well. It's got Gary in between, but I suspect that the McLaren man is going to look to try and go on the hunt as well. As you see the soft runners all holding that trade. It is quite easy to follow at this track, and Excel Moon in particular is really relishing in this environment and chasing on to QVR Packer runners Arcolo still comfortably holding on to the race lead then in the AlphaTauri, but of course still very, very early days, and these guys all looking to try and settle in, but Noon in particular looks very quick. You mentioned not able to get that final one in the qualifying, would have certainly hoped for more, but both he and Matt 3 places up so far in the race and really relishing in this environment, as I said. So let's see what he can do then, but I suspect the DRS train's going to hold out. Packer's really got the best chance of overtaking, and he looks content to sit behind Arcolo. So Arcolo maintains the race lead still out on the track, is still the all-set line, but Jim is a little bit detached himself then, struggling to keep pace. Is further down the road then. Larkin making another place on Sway to the inside line, will get through, and Jordan on the offensive as well then. Armageddon's former title rival Jaco. Jaco holds around the outside of one, gets the place, and the 2 in will continue to press up the road through turn 3 and look to try and hold on to it, but Jordan Jorno attacking again towards 4. Fades the inside line. Jaco looks up but makes the apex, makes the place just in front of the Red Bull. But these guys going at it then. We've not seen many battles on track between these two now. They look to go at it, but Jaco still in front 14th. There's a few gaps though opening up and the hard runners trying then. Jago slipping back from Spag. Spag slipping back as well. Noon off! Top of the front of the field then from turn 10 spinning. Noon's going off there. Was there contact with someone else? He drops well down the order, recovers. And I mentioned how strong he looked on the back of Packer. Now he's going to have to get through again, but he's got front wing damage. We will have to come in next. So from such a strong start to the race. Now the Ferrari driver in major trouble now. Down in 8th place allowed in plate. Desperate times. Did he run into the back of Packer? What else going on with the Ferrari driver now?
That seemed to be on the exit of the corner. I don't think there was any contact. I don't think they were running side by side into the corner unless someone else can tell me otherwise. But that looks like it might have been just an error on his own. Broken his front ring. What a shame. Noon so many times this season has looked like he has the pace to be a championship protagonist, but it just keeps going away from him, especially in this midpoint of the season. He's staying out on the track. I think just trying to run until he can put the hards on and feasibly get to the end of the race. But Matt Tibos is going to breeze down the inside of that McLaren. Actually, Noon's going to try and hold it all the way around the outside, but this is just going to cost them more and more time. Matt Tibos is going to get a brilliant run here up towards turn 4. Neither of them have DRS, and Juma is going to think to attack these guys as well. A bit further in behind Noon, really late on the brakes. Matt Tibos really early on the brakes. Noon understeering wide at turn 4, but holds the place. But you can see they're already nearly 2 seconds behind McCrass, and this is just going to allow the hard runners to close back in. Meanwhile, J. Cole and Yorno continue to fight, and Larkin is going to try and pass the pair of them here. Larkin passes Yorno in a very close fight with J. Cole coming through turn 6 and 7. J. Cole holds the place for the time being, but Larkin trying to recover after that poor start, working his way through nicely at the moment on the hard compound tyres.
Yeah, and I expect Jacob's not going to fight that one too hard. Then Larkin looking like he's got a bit more pace in him after that poor start to the race then. As Excel then still holding back Matt Tibos. He tried to run it to turn 8, went wide at turn 7, and has got a penalty for his troubles, and has got some pressure from Jimmy behind as well then. This is helping Ryan stay with it, and he's doing a great job of keeping Gary at bay. The medium short McLaren still unable to find a way through as of yet. Up at the front though, QVR Packer now beginning to wake up in second place. Colo, little bit of a twitch from the rear tires to the AlphaTauri, but I don't think the maneuver, the swap is going to come just yet. The pack 10 to set and remain in P2 is Noon, staying out for yet another lap on the grass down the main straight as Jim's got a spectacular run on the back of Matt Tibos, looking towards the inside line, squeezed slightly by the McLaren. Can he slow down the inside line? Matt Tibos runs it out wide and looks for better fortunes on the exit, swinging round the outside of turn 2, squeezed onto the curb, and he finds the gap. Then Matt Tibos and Juma drag race up towards turn 4. It's the McLaren on the inside, the AlphaTauri on the outside, breaks incredibly late, too late, runs away. Matt Tibos slots it back underneath, gets through Gary and Ryan going at it further down the order. Gary at last is through on the Mercedes. Through goes Gary, back goes Ryan. Through goes, well, I was going to say through goes somewhere in that battle for 8, but ultimately still excellent holding these guys back out. As Jim out, heading out of turn 8, then Jim into the wall. The first driver out of the running, then Jim after a front row start. Safety car deployed. Dramatic, more drama here at Bahrain. Jim gutting out again. Just nothing can go right for the Spaniard in this season. Surely the software is going to come in this lap. Arcolo leads for Packer. How is this going to affect the strategy, Zayden? How is this going to favour?
Well, definitely the soft runners can come in for a set of hards now and should easily get these to the end of the race. I tell you, this is massively disadvantaged, and that's all those that started on the hards. They needed to this race to run green so that they could use the medium tyres at the end. They can't pit now for a set of mediums. They will not make it to the end of the race. They've got to stay out. There's no real choice for these hard compound runners. Into the pit lane comes the soft runners, then Dylan almost thought about passing Nolan on the way into the pit lane, but couldn't quite get it done. I think the only person, it was actually Matt Tibos, was able to pass Noon, and Noon still sped into the pit lane. So Matt Tibos passes Noon on the way into the pits, and into the pit lane then comes in to replace that front wing. A little bit slow in the pit stops as well. So into the lead goes Ryan, Spag up into second, Larkin third ahead of J. Cole fourth, Yorno will be fifth, but Arcolo will come out in sixth place. Matthew 40 though has jumped Packer. That's very interesting. Second place in the championship, jumps third place in the championship, and now Matthew 40 sits in that net second place. Dylan also jumped Nolan, so Dylan up into a net fifth, Nolan down into a net sixth.
Yeah, so position swapping through the pit stops then. That is the side
Oh,
effect of a
Matt
busy pit
Tibos.
lane, as I saw. Is that Matt Tibos spearing over the back of the field? A damage to the front wing of that McLaren. He got a penalty as well in that altercation into the pit lane with Excel Noon, and now slips down the order. Does the McLaren? He'll have to go in again. And Matt Tibos, a critical error. No front wing in that McLaren. A heavy impact into the wall. He's going to try and recover that, get back to the train at least, but I don't think the safety car is going to come in this lap. It certainly won't, so I think he will get away with that then. As Ariel Ryan leads the way, it is these 5 drivers now on the hards that remain. They have been dealt a really, really tough hand. As Doom now out the session, of course, he'll be furious after that mistake then, and another promising result goes sour for the AlphaTauri man. His teammate, though, is running strongly, sick for the moment, but has got some trouble then, and Yorno may well do to try and help his teammate then by fighting. So this is going to be interesting. The hard runners, they've had their strategy compromised. They will not be willing to give up these positions out on track, so they're going to fight it all the way through then, as Matt Tibble slipping down the order. He's run wide again at turn 11. Again, we've seen Matt Tibos just, again, he's had the pace in the few rounds that we've seen from him, but ultimately just not been able to put it together. He'll have to get it into the pit lane, the McLaren driver. Gutting luck yet again. He'll try and drive it in then, as now things will bunch up. We may well get racing on the next lap. Ariel Ryan leads the way, though, out in front. He's going to really dig on those hards. He's going to need a miracle now to make that strategy work.
Yeah, he's going to need the likes of Yorno and Jacob to really fight the drivers behind. And we've seen in the past 2 rounds, Jacob been at the head of a train of cars and really defend hard. So we could see the same thing from Jacob here today if he's feeling up to it. But definitely, him and Yorno have already been up for a fight so far. Matt Tibbles into the pit lane, speed into the pit lane as well, just to add to his troubles. He'll be down towards the back of the field. This does allow, though, the likes of Rekurik and TDB to recatch the safety car after their woes in the opening few laps of this race. Same for Falk as well, who's been in for a set of hard compound tyres. I think he's coming into the pit lane again, so we'll wait and see what he's actually coming in for. The hards that he's on probably could get to the end of the race without too much of a problem, but he's just coming in for another set of tyres. I imagine it will probably be a fresh set of medium compound tyres. That's one benefit for these guys at the back of the field now. They are on a fresh set of mediums. They won't get to the end of the race. They've got to try and get through these drivers as quickly as possible if they want to make this strategy work. And we've already seen that the hard compound tyres do take a long time to get up to temperature.
And of course, that's going to be exaggerated for the guys that went in under the safety car, because of course they've not got the laps on these tires. The top 5 may actually have a bit more initial pace. Let's see how that's going to unfold. Then Yorno may have a better chance of holding back Arcolo, who yet again has some obstacles to overcome. Of course, he had to put up with Falk in front of him, holding back in Spain. He managed to overcome that, but these are now 5 drivers are going to be holding it back, as Sway has come together with Noon further down the order. Both of them have got penalties, and that's going to, again, really hurt their races in Excel. Noon has had such an up and down race so far then. Started so strongly, but it's turning sour. Sway as well then, who's taking a real rest by putting on those medium tyres. Now he is going to really suffer, especially with that penalty. But of course, as now they're going to bunch up then, we may not actually get back to racing this lap, which could give these guys an opportunity at the very least to come in. But now, as we've got Falk, who's the last driver to get onto the back of it, doesn't look like we're going to get racing just yet. Falk's going to try and get onto the back of it. Ryan will still lead them out then, so this is very intriguing. And I expect Noon and Sway to come in at least serve one of those penalties. We're out on a lap then, the safety car stays out, giving these guys a lot of time to prepare. Now, how is Ryan going to measure this one then? There's not a lot of options with the last sector here at Bahrain, but he's going to try and time it right. He's going to get a jump on Spag. Spag, when DRS is active, will be looking for any which way to get through. Ryan drove such a good opening to the race. He will look for try and get more, as now into the pit lane comes Sway and Matt Tavos. Noon does stay out. These guys going to get fresh tyres on. They'll take that opportunity now, and for some of the guys in the hards, well, they could have given up potentially at that track position to maybe put on some mediums if they wanted to get them to the end, but they're going to stay it out then, stick it out and try and hold it out front. But now everyone else going to dive in at the back then. Sway and Matt Tibos, they dive in, and it's Ryan up the front of the field. We should get back to racing on this lap at last. The Mercedes from the Renault. When do you reckon he's going to go then? Because of course only 2 corners to go. He's got to try and measure it right, and with that slipstream that you can get down the main straight, do you reckon Ryan is going to run this right up to the line here?
I would imagine so, definitely. It's probably the best chance he's got of bunching the field up and then not getting overtaken. It could cause a little bit of carnage, but we've seen it plenty of times at safety car restarts this season where people leave it to the absolute last minute. I think one of those that is most notable was at Singapore. I believe it was Packer that left it right until the last moment to get that race underway again, and it caused a little bit of drama towards the back of the field. It really helped out Larkin, who had a brilliant safety car restart, and that was part of why he ended up winning that race. So we'll see what Ryan does do and see whether the likes of Spag and Larkin can react to it. Into the pit lane then came Sway and Matt Tibos. Sway probably might have had a little bit of minute damage and wanted to get rid of that penalty, and he's now on another fresh set of medium compound tyres. Matt Tibos has gone back onto another set of hards, so it looks like he's now just going to try and go to the end of the race. It does look like the safety car is coming in. Yes, it is. It's going to be coming in at the end of this lap, so now Ryan becomes the de facto pace car. We'll see what he can do then. Coming out of turn 13, he's got this whole back straight and then the exit of turn 14 and 15 to choose where he wants to go. He's back in the field right up. Arcolo, interestingly, keeping himself at a distance from the back of Yorno for the time being. I think maybe expecting Ryan to go before the final corner so he can give himself a run into that corner. Still on board with Ryan, has not gone yet. Looks like he is trying to wait until the very last moment. He's not gone before the final corner, into the final corner, still not gone through the corner, so he is waiting like we mentioned he might do. Still waiting until the line. People are expecting him to go at the back. It's starting to bunch up just a little bit. Ryan now goes just before the pit entry line. He is off and running and Spag doesn't react to it very well. Dylan, Assassin's had a terrible safety car restart, and Dylan and Nolan have passed Assassin before the safety car finished. Dylan's actually going to try and pass Packer as well. Matthew 40 having a look at Arcolo in towards turn 1. Dylan runs clean into the back of Matthew 40. J. Cole's off the road. Dylan breaks his front wing. Matthew 40 though passes Arcolo. Yellow flag in sector 1. That is for J. Cole, who was slipped to the back of the field. Yorno's going to move over for his teammate as well. So Matthew 40 up into 4th. Arcolo's trying to go all the way around the outside of Yorno, but Yorno's going to squeeze him to the curb and he can't get that moved on. Arcolo tried to stick it around the outside. That wouldn't work. Packer, I think, ran into the back of him in the process. I don't know if Packer has broken his front wing. He's got away with it, but he's looking down the inside of Arcolo. Arcolo hits Yorno, but this has worked out perfectly for Matthew 40, and Packer through on Arcolo as well. Arcolo has been swamped at the safety car restart.
Yeah, just got quiet by them. Matthew 40 away brilliantly in the team play from Yorno, holding back Packer and Arcolo in behind it. It is chaos further down the order. Ariel Assassin has slipped massively in the Ferrari, down into 13th place now. He's got it from wing and tag, but that's all he can really salvage from that then. Now, QVR Packer is going to get through on Yorno now. Yorno backing them all up then, and Nolan as well attacking Arcolo. Nolan is in a really good position as well then, looking for by far his best race of the season so far, just 14 points to his name. He is now looking to go on the move. As Packer now needs to maneuver now, punching off up turn 14. Yorno will be on the defensive here as they run it now towards the line. It is still Red Bull from Alfa Romeo, but now Packer onto the move then towards turn 1. He's going to wait to pull out the slipstream. Now he attacks QVR Packer inside of NSA's Yorno, but the Red Bull's not giving it up just yet. Still right here inside of turn 1, maintains it in turn 2, and still Packer cannot get through the exit now. The run towards turn 4 that Yorno's going to try to hold on to it up and around the outside, then pinches him into the curb, but Packer will get through and lost the 5th place, and still keep Matthew 40 honest. Now the championship contenders are right next to each other on the road, but with vastly different circumstances to their names. Further down the order, Alpha folks going for a huge launch and a turning comes together with Excel down again. The Haas driver almost going around. Assassin is going into Perry. Perry, strange overtaking maneuver then, trying to get through it. And these guys, I'm very sorry to see this on stream then. You are underage. Yeah, please do look away now. So I guess we will look away up towards the front of the field. Ryan does hold the lead then from Spag and Larkin, but Matt's got through it now. He's up behind Larkin, and now these guys are going to go to war, you suspect, on track then. Matthew 40 up behind XL Larkin, with QVR Packer chasing him down as well. Larkin, though, is going to look to try and put some distance. He is attacking Spag now, heading over that final turn. Should be DRS activated as they go over the line, but it's still Ariel Ryan leading away, and now Larkin going on the attack down the main straight, but Spag is edged equal to the offensive. Arcolo Still stuck behind Yorno and unable to find a way through as the pole sitter now. Really struggling out there. So they all now look to set in line. The DRS straight kicks in. So Ryan leads, Spag leads, Larkin leads, Matt on the track at the moment. Still filtering in through line then. Looks like we're not going to see much, but Arcolo, since the restarts, really struggled. He looked so strong in the first set, but he's still behind Yorno without Ariel Nolan and the Williams really having a go. And he's got a real chance at a net podium. This is by far the best we've seen from Nolan this season.
It really is. Meanwhile, further down, Dylan with the damage to his front wing is defending like mad at the moment. Dylan and Falk are really bumping into each other almost at every corner at this point. Falk desperate to find a way through on his fresh mediums. Dylan aggressive in his defence, trying to hold him off, but it's just costing them time now. Dylan, from what could have been a great result, breaking his front wing at turn 1 on the safety car restart, just too ambitious on the brakes, and it's cost him dearly. I want to know as well what happened to Assassin at that safety car restart. He was right up behind. I believe it was McCrass who was right up behind, or just ahead of McCrass, sorry, and he's dropped a few places at the safety car restart before he even got to the line. So I wonder if he got a poor restart, whether there was contact or no. Yorno has spun off the track at turn 12. Another driver spinning out of contention. Amazingly, he doesn't have any damage, so he luckily got away with that, but he's down to 18th place. Another thing to note as well, we completely missed, but TDB has dropped back down to 19th again, so another restart to this race, and it's gone horribly wrong for TDB in this race so far, down to 19th place for Kurik, now having a run at Assassin. Assassin's diving into the pit lane, so he's given up with that strategy. He's into the pits. I wonder if he's broken his front wing somewhere. Falcon's going to go for it again on Dylan in towards turn 1. Falk hasn't got any ERS left though to use it. McCrass and Nolan are now going side by side for P7. It's all kicking off on lap 13. Nolan just holds on to that P7, but Arcolo already out of DRS range to Packer in front.
Yes, certainly. He's got a lot of work to do then. These guys fiercely battling then, and Arcolo is forced onto the defensive here, but he is saved by the attacking intentions of Farmer crossing behind in the Haas, but unable to quite find that move on the Ariel Nolan. Further up the road, still though, the three hard runners maintaining station at the front of the field as it stands right now. Matt G40 from Packer, still bottleneck behind Larkin, who is holding his championship rivals back, but Matt has saved an abundance of battery of ERS to deploy when the time is right, when he feels it is ready to strike on the top 3, but at the moment they all just set in formation, set in line. But you said that the manoeuvres are going to come soon because Arcolo is working his way back into it now as the leaders get bottlenecked up behind the top 3. So Larkin now using a bit more overtake. You said that he's going to be looking for any which way to get through on Spag, but Spag still got battery himself there to hold on to that second position. Out there on the road, that is Arcolo begins to reel the men from behind it. So we're building up a 6-car train, nearly 7 or 8. As now everyone works the way back in. The pack bunches up as the hard runners on all the tires begin to hold the rest of the field back. Further down the order, Falk and Dylan looking to go to war again towards turn 1. Dylan right to the white line, right to the pit pole, but Falk attacking. They bang wheels again through the entry and through the exit as Falk is wide and pitched, and eventually they come together and Falk off the road at turn 2, just too aggressive between him and Sway. Oh, he was tied by Gary. The Williams smashes straight into the wall. Full course yellow, just a yellow in sector 1. Chaos yet again here as Jacob Mercury going at it. The Renault driver gets the better of it. Assassin now out the race. More chaos, more instant, and what has been an utterly hectic Bahrain Grand Prix so far. 2 drivers out, more from wing damage then for Sway heading down the main straight. Goes past by Yorno now up in the 15th. It is yet again an absolute massacre, you have to say, about on track. Then Falk and Dylan going at it, and again they just come together. I don't think it was really anyone's fault, but just a side effect of the aggression that we've been seeing. Up the front it's clean, but down the back it is chaotic. It's still Ryan, Spag, Larkin. These guys all set up in formation, but again all hell breaks loose in the back of the field. It's chaos, so many incidents, and we're only halfway through the race, Aidan.
It's kicking, like you say, really kicking off at the back in that queue that was stuck behind Dylan and the damaged front wing, and the battle he was having with Falk, it was just getting too messy between the two of them, and everyone just got caught up in the aftermath. Unfortunately, Larkin now really close to the back of Spag, coming down the pit straight. Can he look for a move on the Renault? No, he can't. Spag uses his ERS and his DRS to defend that move in towards turn 1. Larkin stuck in 3rd place. Into the pits comes Rakurik off of those old medium compound tyres. Sway into the pit lane, as is Matt Tibos yet again in this race. That must be the 3rd time at least both of those drivers have been into the pit lane. It's been a real disaster so far. Gary was the only one really to survive all that carnage and has managed to work his way up into 11th place. Dylan, the next car on the road for him, who still has that damage. Falcus retired in the pit lane after that contact with Dylan. There is a lot of stewards inquiries coming into this race. I think later on it's going to be a busy night for the stewards. Back to the front of the field though, and you can see, just riding on board with Packer, you can see further up the road, Spag on those hard compound tyres, really struggling for grip.
He is certainly, but Larkin not got much more to his name as well, unable to get through just yet. But they're all bunching up and overtaking the DRS train, proving to be so difficult. And Spag doesn't really have the pace to fight Ryan. Ryan has so much potential for a result. He's going to need a lot of luck. He's still got a chance, but ultimately I think the way the safety car plays out has not favoured the Mercedes driver one bit. But he's still going to look to hold on at the front of the field. We'll see when those hard runners are going to dive to the pit lane eventually. They'll have to pit at some point. Maybe they'll back on a safety car. And judging by the way this race has gone so far, I wouldn't bet against it. It is 9 cars for the lead of the race, and still Excel Larkin attacking Spag, and Spag at last dives to the pit lane in the Renault. He is the first of the harbourers to break. He's the first to get off that strategy. That's now McCrash. They're on the attack, trying to draw level. L'Oreal Nolan to the inside lane at turn 1, and they go to battle again. Nolan up and around the outside, trying to hold on to it. They almost touch it at turn 2, but McCrash almost through. They bang wheels on the exit, but Nolan with momentum, charging round the outside towards turn 4, still level on the brakes. And who's going to come in on top? Nolan's so late, but is he going to make it stick? Round the outside, they're still level. Then McCrash over the inside line, gets through it at turn 6. Has he converted it though? Nolan attacking again in at turn 7. Almost there is the betrayal, and in the end McCrash holds on to it. Nolan threw everything at it, but McCrash gets the place in the end, up to 6th. Then these guys furiously going at it down the back of the train. McCrash threw on Nolan to P6 and a net P4. He's chasing a podium, would be his first since the 4th round of the season at Russia. Now on the move by Darkolo. Yellows again, that's Matt Tibos on the back of the field. He's had a nightmare of a race today.
It's really been a shocking for him, the McLaren driver, hasn't it? That must be at least his 3rd or 4th spin in this race. Now he's got away with no damage, but 17th and way down at the back of the field. It's going to be a long end to this race for the McLaren driver at the front. Ryan continues to lead the way. Larkin has closed in on the back of the Mercedes driver now, though, after Spag's pit stop from there. McCrash, that is an important move. Past Nolan, P4, net P4 on the road at the moment, still with a great opportunity at a podium result. You've got to say, though, as into the pits comes Ryan and Larkin, that'll be for a set of medium compound tyres, so pretty much all of the hard runners that needed to pit have come in. The only one that has stayed out so far is J. Cole, and I would imagine he's coming in at the end of the next lap. He's right on the back of Dylan, actually, going for a move down the inside, and Dylan's front wing damage just causing him to plummet down the field. Now he's just understeering and is dropped behind Gary and J. Cole in the process. J. Cole, though, does still need to pit in this race. Ryan comes out in 10th, made that 11th actually, because Spag is able to jump Ryan because of that early pit stop. So Spag into 10th, Ryan 11th, Larkin 12th, only with 1 point to his name at the moment, while his 2 closest championship rivals are 1st and 2nd.
This is a major opportunity for both of them to chase down the championship advantage. The question is now, how much pace will these medium runners have to try and chase down the hard runners further up the order? But you sense they won't be possibly able to get higher than Gary. The top 6 look pretty safe at the front, and so Matthew 40 and Packer look set to battle it out for a potential race victory, as they did in Canada, as they did in Australia. It's 1-1 in terms of those race victories, and now they look to go to battle again with 4 other drivers. Arcola, McCrash, Nolan, waiting in the wings and looking for any which way to take advantage. Both of these guys up at the front with colossal amounts of ERS, colossal amounts of experience, colossal amounts of pedigree. And so we wait before one of them launches the attack. You sense Packer is in control of this. He's got the speed to match Matthew 40. Remember, he out-qualified the Red Bull driver. The question is, when does he launch the offensive? Matthew 40 very aggressive on the curbs towards turn 1. These guys now sat in his Jaco, as he had predicted, does go to the pit lane, but it is now 2 championship rivals, 2 championship protagonists. They fought up the front all season long, and now they can share the front of the grid out there on track then, sussing out their strengths, sussing out their weaknesses. Coming up now with 11 laps to go then. Now the real fun begins. Matt leads Packer, going at it up the front then. Can any of the drivers behind get in the way of this then? It is Matt from Packer going for the win again. Matt the victor in Canada. Packer, the victor in Australia. Who's winning this one? It's going to come down to the wire. Packer versus Matt. Will it be one of those two, or will it be one of the drivers' Spain? Let's see what happens then. Matt leads Packer, but these guys going out to the line. Matt may lead, but you know he's going to have to fight for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a really close fight. Packer almost back up to 100% ERS. They both have a lot of ERS in their back pocket to use, as does Arcolo. McCrass, I think, actually has the lowest of all the drivers in the top 6 at the moment, struggling in that 4th place. He was able to get past Nolan, hasn't been able to get past Arcolo in the same fashion, sitting in 4th place at the moment. Packer, though, easy for him to keep within 0.4 of a second off the back of Matthew Fordy. The dirty air not affecting him at all, so if he wants to go for the move, he can. But we've seen so many times, especially around this track, that people wait until the very last moment to make the move, because they know that if they make the move, it gives the driver the opportunity to come back at them either down the next straight or on the next lap. So Packer just sitting in behind, maybe waiting for the opportunity to come to him. These two do look a little bit faster than the drivers behind. Arcolo struggling to keep right up to the back of the Alfa Romeo. He has got good enough speed to stay in DRS range, but not enough to be challenging further down the field. Ryan has caught Spag very quickly indeed, and to the inside line goes Ryan in the Mercedes, breezes past the Renault. That was a 2-second gap a lap ago. He's now past the Renault already, and Larkin there trying to make the move stick as well. He's going to look maybe up towards turn 4, but he's not got a lot of ERS in his back pocket to use. Spag holds on to the 10th place into turn 4. Larkin stays 11th. Ryan then up to 9th, and he's already half the gap between himself and his teammate, who still has that damage. So 8th is definitely on the cards for Ryan, who sets the purple first sector. Gary looks like he could be up for the grabs as well in 7th, and like you said, beyond that, it's going to have to take a little bit of carnage or a safety car for Ryan to be challenging the top 6.
But, well, Spag's pace was well quicker than the Harvarders in front. Ryan's pace looks even more impressive. And, of course, with the fresher tyres, the Mercedes man going from strength to strength here. 9th at the moment. Can he put himself further up the order? He's got just 2 more seconds to make up on Dylan with the pace that he has. That should be easy as you like. Gary may well, as you mentioned, be in the firing line, but the top 6 are free to fight. But will they be willing to fight? Matt leads Packer, but it looks to be just a game of cat and mouse and a game of chess at incredibly high speeds, as now they just sit in formation, but the manoeuvres are not coming just yet. Then Packer closing the DRS at the end of the straight on his own. He's not ready, he's not willing to spring a surprise on the Red Bull just yet. And now, as we're into the final 10 laps, the final third of the race, they all just wait. And again, Packer closing that DRS. Seemingly, he has no interest in getting through the Red Bull. But how's he going to play us? It's as much a battle of wits and tactics as it is about speed here at Bahrain. With a 6-way fight as Packer nearly loses it in a turn 7. Even if you're sitting in behind, you have to watch and wait for those mistakes. You have to anticipate the movements of the car, because it can always get away from you. But Matt still leads Packer then, the 20th lap of the race. Packer's going to try and hold on here, can't allow Matt to get away, but I imagine with a better battery and a better DRS, he can close back in. So Matt for Packer is the status quo at the front then. Larkin on for some very meagre points as it stands right now, really struggling. TDB and Swear battling up the back of the field, heading towards turn 6, side by side, then Swear on the inside line, trying to get through, but TDB sweeps it around the outside. They almost touch, runs way through 7, and Swear on the attack again, up the outside, in a turn 8. These guys not fighting for points, fighting for pride, but it is in the end the Alfa Romeo that gets in front. But up the front of the field, it is Matt from Packer into the final 9 laps. He still leads the way. Packer just chasing him down. 9 laps to go in the race. When do you think he's going to go? Is he going to go early? Is he going to go late? 9 laps to go. Matt leads the way. Packer just sitting behind. I suspect he's winning to the last few laps before he strikes at the Red Bull man.
Yeah, surely he's going to have to wait until at least lap 27 before he can think about making the move at the moment. Matt did use a little bit of ERS on that last lap to try and break away. It hasn't worked, so Matt was around on 90. He's down to about 75, so the ERS is coming down for the Red Bull, and it's not allowing him to pull away. Packer is keeping within touching range nice and easily at the moment. Arcola, like I mentioned earlier on, just can't quite keep the same distance between himself and Packer that Packer can between himself and Matt. So 3rd place at the moment looks safe for Arcola, but he doesn't look like he's going to challenge the top 2 unless they start fighting in behind. McCrass comfortable in 4th. Nolan as well comfortable in 5th. Noon in 6th in the queue has 2 5-second time penalties hanging over him at the moment, so that's dropping him out of contention as it stands. Nolan at the time being on for by far his best finish of the season. I think his best finish of the season at this point is a 10th 5th place finish, so he's looking for something much better than that. He would somewhere near triple his points for the season so far with this result, so that would be great for Nolan off the back of the week where Arcola got his best result of the season. Nolan looks like another one who might be finally be able to break that duck in 5th place. Further down, Ryan is already on the back of Dylan. He's 7/10 of a second back. Of course, Dylan does have that damage, and you would imagine that Dylan is not going to put up too much of a fight against his Mercedes teammate because Ryan has a very possible run at Gary for 7th.
And he's certainly going to probably put up a bit more of a fight to Spag and locking it behind and looking to try and get his teammate out of that range. As Paco is going for the race lead against Matt then. Inside of turn 1, outside of turn 2. Matt's going to squeeze him out, then they go toward the track. But Packer goes through, strikes early, straight to the heart, and through he goes to the front of the race. We didn't expect that. We thought he'd wait around, but I think that he's taught Matt to expect the unexpected. Through goes the American, through goes the Alfa Romeo as far down the order, rides through Dylan as well. Dylan still holds back Spag and locking it behind, but Packer to the front of the race. He strikes first in, he makes the first move. How will Matt respond to this? And he's going to try and stick with it first, but Packer went earlier than we thought, and now gonna set the tone. But what's Matt gonna do? Is he gonna look to try and strike right back? Is he gonna sit then? As now Dylan and Spag going at it outside of the hairpin of turn 8 then is still gonna hold on to it. Spag trying to fight down the inside line, and they almost come together. Dylan breaks incredibly late, but runs a little bit wide, and they come together through the exit as well. They're level Larkin, cruising around the outside then, and Larkin looking for turn 1 here. Spag still fighting inside of turn 11. Larkin is round the outside. Oh, that's brilliant from Larkin. 2 places up. Spag and Dylan coming together. Larkin, just like he did at the Singapore restart, takes full advantage and gains 2 places. Now runs 8th, but he's out the DRS range of Ryan. Ryan can now use that to pull up the road then and look up towards the top 7 end. Gary first up with a headless Sarkola now, attacking Matthew 40. So now the AlphaTauri is right in this now. Up at the front of the race. Looks like Matt's going to hold it back. But now these guys go into war. Packer, Matt, Arcola, McCross is right there. You have to say you cannot rule out any of these guys running closer than ever. Packer leads Matt now with just 6.5 laps to go. Packer made the first move, but Matt is sitting behind, looks contender, but he's got to be careful if he backs off too much. Arcolo's still there, and if Matt waits too long, it could be a real threat and a real peril for the AlphaTauri behind. He's going to find a way through as well.
Yeah, definitely really looking for an opportunity is Arcola to try and get back up the places he lost at the safety car restart. Of course, was the net leader after the safety car pit stops. Has dropped down into 3rd, but look at McCrass in 4th. Really got a good run out of 10, but wasn't close enough to make the move down towards turn 11 on the AlphaTauri driver. Nolan as well thinking about a move on McCrass. Isn't close enough to make the move stick, so he's going to sit in 5th place for the time being. You've got to say on raw speed alone, Packer does look faster than Matthew 40. It's a lot harder for Matthew 40 to keep up with Packer than it was for Packer to keep up with a Red Bull driver further down the field. Vapor TDB and Sway going at it once again. This time around it's advantage Sway who gets up into 15th place on the fresher medium compound tyres. Will have more raw speed, and they're being caught by Matt Tibos, who's looking to salvage something from what's been a disastrous race. At the front then once again, McCrass is the man that's closest this time around in the house. He's got his ERS on. Arcolo's moving to the middle of the track. McCrass turns his ERS off, decides not to go for the move. Arcolo keeps it in the middle and then moves back to the racing line to hold 3rd place for the time being. Gotta say though, Packer striking early gets him into the lead of the race, but now this gives Matt the opportunity to save up his ERS and then go on the attack later on.
Certainly will then. The question is when, the question is where. As Phil McCrass sitting very close to Arcola now. So it seems like the threats switching throughout the train, and now as McCrass looks to try and go on to the move and putting Arcola's podium up the threat. Arcola is wide through turn 6, out of shape through turn 7. Is McCrass going to dive it? Looks to the outside now. In the Haas. Can he switch back through the exit? And McCrass a good exit, but not quite good enough. Arcola will hold it back. So for the time being, and it's allowing the top two a little more breathing space. But Packer looks so strong through the middle sector, especially compared to Matt. And Matt needs that DRS to stay in contention, but he's still got more than 90% ERS. So he's still got the resources to hang on in there to go in the attack later on. Then it could come to the last few laps before they really start scrapping down the order. Ryan is holding back Larkin from DRS and chasing down Gary. Gary will do all he can to hold on to 7th, but Ryan attacking now. And those guys who were together at the start of the race, and vastly different strategies. Looks like similar outcomes. Who's going to come out on top in that fight over 7th place? Still a nail biter up at the front. Packer leads Matt, but I'm with you. Packer looks a little bit quicker through the corners and is able to pull that gap. Matt has got the battery and the DRS hang on in then, and with how powerful it is at this track, he's still got a chance, but he can't be complacent. He's got to try and hang on in then. But Arcolo's struggling now to stay with it. He's going to try and rely on mistakes and battling, but he's going to dig in there. Packer's got phenomenal pace, stretching it right now there. Matt's going to dig in deeper. He needs to be close enough to mount a challenge in the last few laps.
Yeah, he's really got to go for it, and McCrass is looking the most racy of these top 5 at the moment, really looking to try and find a way past Arcolo. Like you said, he struggled so much in the midpoint of the season, much like Noon. Had a really good opening phase of the championship, was on the podium along with Noon when Noon won his race in Russia, but since then it's just gone downhill for the IFR driver. It's been Falk that's had the better of the mid part of the season of the 2 Haas cars. It looks like that pendulum might have swung once again. Falk out of the race at the moment. McCrass is in 4th place looking for a podium. Can he get up there? I can't remember the last time McCrass finished inside the top 5. He's had such a dismal midpoint of the season. He's in the bottom end of the top 10 in points because of it. What can he do in these final few phases? We've only got, I believe, if my maths are right, 4 laps to go when we cross the line. Yeah, 4 laps to go when we cross the line, so not long to go in this race. The man is doing enough to stick within range, and he's got so much ERS to use if he needs to. It's a case of whether he can get close enough in this final sector to mount a challenge in towards turn 1. At the moment, Packer's doing enough to build enough of a gap in the middle part of the lap. Further down the field, Ryan nearly on the back of Gary for that 7th place. It's 1.9 seconds. Larkin going with him, and these two are starting to drop spag just a little bit. Further down as well, Dylan in that 11th place just continues to lose time with that damaged front wing. He's now being caught by Rekurik for that 11th place spot.
And Matt looking down the inside of Packer, doesn't commit to the move, but he used quite a bit of battery down the straight. You sense his attacking intentions are a bit more clear. Maybe he's looking to try and drain Packer's battery before he goes fully on the offensive in the last few laps of the race. 4 laps to go at Bahrain, and the game of cat and mouse continues, and still the 4 drivers winning the wins. Arcola, McCrass, Nolan and Noon just sit and wait for any opportunities to present themselves. Ryan and Larkin, the grip is beginning to fade from the medium, so not catching Gary quite as quickly, but still they'll have a good run to the checkered flag at the McLaren up the road there. But Larkin will try and gain 7th place. Wouldn't be too bad given the circumstances, but with Packer and Matt at the front then, it's certainly not what he was after. So let's see if things are going to unfold here then. 3.5 to go. Packer from Matt. Still looking, watching each other then. Packer, the car nearly gets away from his centre back, and Arcolo spinning. Arcolo into the wall in turn 11, and a podium slipping through the fingers of the AlphaTauri driver. Looks so solid, raced so well, but now down the field in the front wing net, Arcolo just being betrayed by some oversteer, and that could potentially end this race. Looks like he's out of the running for points then. Oh, that's gutting for Arcolo, who drove such a good race up to that point. The pole setter in the end, things just haven't quite gone his way. Matt attacking Packer now, and down the inside of turn 1, he's committed. Then the championship rivals going to war here. Matt on the inside line. Packer's not giving it up just yet. Then they bag wheels in a turn 2. Now they're rolling up the hill towards turn 4, the inside lights for Matt, the possession with Matt as well. Arcolo now out the running. You have to feel for him after such a good run early in the race now. Now the podium is Matt, Packer and McCrass now fading to the line. Packer now loses the place. Matt gets through. 3 laps to go. Can Matt hold on to it now as they run through? And Matt's made the move on Packer now. They swap places again now. Can Packer fight back? But he's down on battery. He's got to really dig it deep here as Matt measures this race. Can he hold on to this race lead?
Has he timed it to perfection as Matsu Forti Arcolo left the session? That is such a shame for the AlphaTauri driver, who looked like he's finally broken that curse of not getting a good result, and just 3.5 laps away from the end of the race, a podium slips from his fingertips. What a shame for the AlphaTauri driver, who drove such a great race, got unfortunate at the safety car restart and just wasn't able to recover. Like I say, that puts McCrass up into 3rd, that puts Nolan up into 4th, and crucially that helps Larkin that little bit more. He's up another place into 8th, and they've both caught Gary now for that 6th place. Ryan now in 7th, looking on the back of Gary. Can Larkin pass the pair of them and continue to limit the damage? Remember, the gap between him and Matt in the championship is 16 points as it stands. If Larkin was to finish in 6th place and Matthew Fornich to finish the race in the lead, the championship would swing back in Matt's favour by a single point. That is how close it's going to be at the end of this round if it ends up like that. Ryan is looking to go for the move here on Gary down the pitch straight, but he doesn't have any ERS. Neither does Gary, though. Gary back to the racing line. Ryan's gifted the inside line for turn 1. Gary doesn't put up a fight. Ryan up into 6th place. Gary drops into 7th and loses the rear of the car, and that has just opened the door for Larkin, who breezes down the inside of turn 3. But Larkin, I think, might have been off the road when he made that move. Sticks, who has to give the place back to Gary and towards turn 4. So Gary holds on to 7th for the time being, but you would imagine it's only a matter of time before Larkin gets this move done.
Yeah, but it does allow Ryan to secure that 6th position somewhat with just a lap and a half to go. A lap and a half, which will define the front of the race. And in both now, Matty 40 and QB Packer are really going for it. And Matt has got the better of this lap so far. Leads by 6/10 of a second now. Can he hold on to the flag now as they run now? 1 and 2 in tandem. They're chasing down Larkin's championship lead. Larkin will try and snatch it from Gary last minute. Now we're coming up to the final lap, and Matt has 7/10 and add 3/4 of a second. Will that be enough? Now, on to the final lap of the race. Matthew Ford, has he made a decisive break here? He's put in a phenomenal 28th lap to the front of the race now, but Packer is digging in. Can he chase the gap down? Matt now, he's got the McLaren just in front of Matt Timos. He's going to try and not get distracted by that, but he still leads the way. Packer needs a superlative run through turn 3. It's good, but is it going to be good enough now? DRS chasing it down, just 2/10 of a second away, but not near enough. And Matthew 40 sees off what may well be the last attack of QBR Packer, but he's not giving up just yet now. Coming up now with just 2/3 of the lap left to go in Bahrain. It's been a thrilling battle yet again between Matt and Packer. One of the most thrilling rivalries as no one gets to McCrass.
Wow.
McCrass overturning and they come together. He's got a puncture on the last lap. The tires the same age of the drivers in front, no one onto the podium now. McCrass with a puncture, and the same fate could be of any of the drivers up in the front. So Matt hasn't won this just yet then, and still Packer throwing everything out of the gap for 10ths of a second with just 2 corners to go. You sense that Matt's headed for this if he just keeps it clean now up towards the line. Nolan, has he snatched the podium in such unlikely circumstances? This is McCrass slipping back now. What drama on the final lap, but up at the front now. Matty 40 off the final corner. He's battling with Packer to the line, but it is the Red Bull drivers. They a second victory of the season for Matty 40. Packer P2, Nolan on the podium. Unbelievable. Ryan is going to get McCrass, and Larkin follows through. McCrass, heartbreaking final lap, lose out to Gary. Spag over the line then, as Ryan actually got 4th in front of Noon. McCrass crosses 9th behind Spag. Does he get to the line from before Recurring? Yes, he does. Dillon crosses 11th. Jaco will round out the points finishers just behind the Mercedes. That is it for the points finishers. Sway, Yorno, Matt Timos and TDB to see out the race. What a thriller at Bahrain. Championship rivals up the front, and Matt prevails for Packer. They pushed each other all the way. Matt is their victorious from QBR Packer. Nolan an unlikely podium. Brilliant racing in Bahrain. Dramatic at the end. Heartbreak for some, elation for others. That is racing, and that is LOE Division 2.
That was an absolutely brilliant race, and you've got to feel, as Yorno sets the fastest lap of the race on the final lap, you've got to feel for McCrass. A double puncture on the final lap. Both left-hand side tyres let go on that final lap. From a podium spot to 9th, how unlucky can you get? Finally looked like he was starting to break the bad luck that he was getting midway through the season. That hasn't happened. He ends up 9th. That is heartbreak for the Haas driver. What a shame, but it does mean Nolan gets his first podium of the season. That's another podium finisher. I'd love to know how many different podium finishers we've had this season, because it must be well over double figures at this point, the amount of different winners we've had, let alone podium finishers. But like I say, Matthew 40 finally with that second win of the season. It's crazy to think that's only a second win, as we see on my end, just heads and no bodies. But Matthew 40 with his second win. Packer threw everything at it, but you got to say Packer went too early with that aggressive move on Matt, and it gave Matt the opportunity to regroup and charge back at him on lap 27. Matthew 40 was the one that timed it to perfection. Packer went too early.
Yeah, and I think, well, Packer may have made an error on lap 28 because he slipped back that bit of time that he needed, and ultimately Matt held on to it. I can't wait to hear from those guys. I'm going to start to get them in here quite soon. There are your results for Bahrain. A stunner of a race yet again, and just 4 races to go. The championship heats up then. Matt gains on Larkin. I'm not sure if he leads it, but it's going to be much tighter now. Can't wait to see how things unfold. On towards the next race at Netherlands. Oh my, that season's going to come down to the wire.
It really, really is. Matthew 40 then, I believe, after that race, will lead the championship by a single point. It's going to be so close going into Zandvoort. Paco as well, closing in on Larkin at the front, not by a lot, but it is still closing in. Nolan on the podium for the first time. Ryan, what a recovery to 4th from a really, really compromised strategy. Noon 5th with the penalties. Larkin, good recovery to 6th. Gary ahead of Spag, McCrass, Kurik, Dylan and Jaco round off the points. Sway, Yorno, TDB, Matt Tibos, multiple spins in that race for all 4 of them. Arcolo, Falk, Assassin and Joom are the retirees from that race. It was a race of attrition. So many things went on in that race, so many spins, so many crashes. Beyond the top 3, shout out to Ryan as well, 4th place and what looked like it could have been barely a top 10 finish after the safety car.
Yeah, certainly. I definitely didn't think he'd be able to pull that off, but his pace on the mediums was just phenomenal at the end, and able to wrestle at that position from pretty much the depths of despair, you have to say. That was absolutely fantastic. We should be getting our podium finishers in here any second now. Can't wait to hear from them after what was admittedly quite a chaotic race in some places, but ultimately another thriller in Division 2. We are now joined by our race winner, so I'm going to hand it over now to you, Mr. Aidan Carter, to run us through after what was another stunning race. Take it away. Can't wait to hear from our race winner today.
Yeah, well, welcome to the party once again, Matthew 40. That is another podium for you. You continue your run of being the person with the most podiums in this championship, and it is your 2nd win of the season. Finally, it's not a 2nd place finish. It's finally that 1st place finish that you've been craving for quite a while. Just talk us through your initial reaction after that race victory.
Absolutely ecstatic. I've wanted to get on the top step for so long in the E2 ever since I won in China, and to get it now, it's just so good.
Yeah, I can imagine it is really good. After qualifying, it looked like it might have been a bit of a hard fight for you. 6th place in qualifying in the end. That final run for you, I heard somewhere that you might have been blocked on that final run. Without that block, do you think you could have got onto that pole position?
And I don't think I could have gotten pole position because the lap wasn't great. I think I could have gotten P2 because I think I was on for a high 0.3, but Arcolo, the one who blocked me, got pole by quite a good margin. So yeah, he was the quickest in qualifying. I wasn't exactly happy with what happened a minute or two before he set the lap, but yeah, that's for the stewards to handle.
Yeah, exactly. And then looking into the race as well, obviously it was a close battle between you and Paco for the final laps of that race. Obviously Paco went for the move a little bit early on you. I think it was around lap 22 or so he went for the move on you, and then you went for the move back on lap 27. Were you expecting Paco to go that early, or after Paco made that move were you just sitting in behind waiting for the right moment?
I have no clue what Paco's intentions were, and then when he eventually passed me on lap 20, I was like, okay, I'll just sit in his DRS. I'm just hoping that he didn't hide like some insane pace whilst he was behind me. So thankfully that wasn't true. So yeah, just following him, and then on lap 27, I looked for the move, and he broke a little bit earlier than I was expecting. So I just decided, oh yeah, I'm just gonna put my car in there. I'm not going to force him off or anything because I don't like racing like that. But yeah, we kept it clean, and I just about got through. And then after that, I just used all my ERS to get away.
Brilliant stuff. I'm going to hand over to you, Danny. You got anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty clear now. You've now 3 podiums in a row, and you've been very consistently on the roster. Only 1 race out of the last 6 where you haven't stood on the podium. That remarkable consistency has pushed you right up there. I believe that you're at the very least very close to Larkin. I think according to Aiden's math, you're 1 point ahead. Not sure if that's completely accurate. We'll wait until things get sorted out. I think that may actually be the case now that I think of it. But yes, brilliant race from you today. The question is now, I guess it's quite an obvious one. 4 races to go. Back in that championship fight for good now. What are your thoughts on these final 4 rounds? Do you reckon you can see this one through?
Yeah, just before I answer that question, I'd like to massively congratulate Jack on finally getting a podium. He, like he deserves it so much, and I'm not surprised it came out Bahrain. It's a really good track for him, so yeah, well deserved. And now going on to the championship. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. 2 wheel tracks, 2 fat tracks, and there's 1 point I think between Larkin and I. So it's going to be a close fight, and I'm looking forward to it. And of course, Packer is still in there. He is within a race win of the championship lead, so he's definitely still in it.
Yeah. Certainly. Oh, sorry, I can't wait to see you guys all go at it. To that, thank you very much, Matt. Once again up here, we're getting a bit bored of you, mate.
Sorry.
It's perfectly fine. I'll hand back over to you, Aidan, to run us through the rest of the interviews. Then we'll hear from Packer and Nolan as well. Then can't wait to get their thoughts after that great race.
Yeah, let's talk to our second place finish then at QVR. Packer, firstly from you, what is your reaction from a podium? Because I believe, well, I think I would know going into this race, a podium was way beyond what you thought was going to happen. So how do you feel about a podium?
To be honest, I was surprised I was in the points. I'm going to be completely honest, but yeah, it was a great race. In practice, I had decent race pace, and I was able to translate that over to the race. And then, yeah, just went for the move a little bit earlier than Verstappen, and the party was like, just go for it, see what he does. And then, yeah, Matt just sat behind. I knew that was probably going to happen, and then, yeah, just went for it on lap. I think it was 26 or 27, and then just. I knew he had a ton of ERS, and then yeah, just decided to drive away.
Yeah, let's talk us through your qualifying as well. That final run in qualifying was, I think, almost was it maybe a 3 or 4 tenth improvement on that final run. A really good final run in qualifying, and I think far beyond maybe the speed that you were expecting. I think you qualified in P4 and then got a great start up into second place. So, talk us through your thoughts after qualifying and then your thoughts after the first lap as well.
I think that was a PB, so third race this season with a PB in qualifying. But yeah, P4, was absolutely ecstatic with it. And then, yeah, just great start. I don't even really know where it came from. It was just like an amazing, I don't even know. It was just a great start, and then I was just able to get up to P2 and then just keep it from there on in. And then I got jumped by Matt in the pit stops, but yeah. Anyways, it was a great qualifying lap and a great start.
Yeah, and that's another podium for you on the board then. That's another, yeah, like I said, another podium. And this season has been far beyond, I think, maybe what you were expecting and what some of us were expecting as well. It's definitely been a massive improvement from last season. 4 rounds to go. I know you're not a massive fan of Zandvoort, but how do you see your chances going into the last 4 rounds? You weren't a fan of Bahrain and you came home with a second place result. So how are you feeling about the rest of the championship?
Well, basically, tracks where I expect to do absolutely terrible, just like I want points, like China, France, and now Bahrain, I've ended up in the top 5 in all of them. So hopefully the Netherlands go the same, but I think I'm getting a new wheel. I think my new my CSL Elite gets here on Wednesday, so I might do that race with it, and then sweat for Italy.
Yeah, hand over to you, Dan. Have you got anything you want to add?
I think you pretty much covered everything there, mate.
Brilliant, yeah. Well, we'll keep you talking for less. There we go. But yeah, thank you so much, Paco, for joining us once again, and congrats on the second place. Now we're going to move over to probably the most hyped man in the party that we've ever had, Mr. Jack, Ariel Nolan. First podium of the season. Going into this round, you didn't have double points in the championship. You've now just scored 15 points in 1 round. So how do you feel after your first podium?
Oh, well, another day, another podium. What can I say? You should have all seen it coming. What can I say?
I won in TTML, and now he gets a podium in LOE.
I win in Japan. Not here, obviously, but, bloody hell. To be honest, I thought I'd get points this race. That was the aim. That's been the aim every race. It's not quite happened. But then, so I got the point, I think it was a 0.6 I got in quali. And do you know that Nepenthes clip when he thinks he's going to get P3, 16th? It was 9th with a low 6. I was fuming. And then for once I just didn't get damage, and I had, to be honest, it was thanks to Jeff, fucking Jeff. Sorry, I swore.
That's right, gloss over it, continue on.
It was thanks to Nathan and Rocco, because they were Jeffing me, and normally I think early on in the race, well, halfway through, Mikras got past me, and in that situation, Dan will have known from when he heard me at TTML Britain, I just spammed my ERS to try to get past him out of anger, and they trained me to just not use it and just to sit behind in the train. And yeah, I mean, Arcolo and Mikras, thank you very much for being worse than me and bottling.
Oh my word! But yeah, that was an absolutely brilliant race from you. Obviously, your best race of the season so far. P3 slot from you when you were running in P5 for the majority of that race as well. When you were running in P5 after behind Mikras and Arcolo before they had their problems, did you think a podium was on the cards, or were you just kind of settled in a P5 slot?
I kept joking about it, and then I kept getting told off by Rocco to say just focus on top 6, because the gap to, I think we had Jake behind us, and then the gap to Gary was like 7 seconds. So as long as I didn't mess up and get a typical penalty that I tend to get, it would have been top 6. And then I knew I was faster than Mikras, because every time I made a move he like burned his ERS, but Arcolo was rapid, and I don't know if he spun, but I said, do you think he got a puncture? And they said no, and then 3 seconds later I think Mikras gets a puncture. So as soon as Arcolo went, my decision was to wait until the last 2 laps and go for Mikras. I didn't think obviously it'd be as easy as it was with him getting a puncture, but the plan once I got into 4th at least would have been to go for a podium, but if things stayed as they were in 5th, it was just to keep all the top 5.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. I'm going to hand over to you, Dan, so that I don't take all the questions from you. Have you got anything for Nolan?
Well, I think there's one question that I do really want to ask you. Is that this feels like a post-boxing match interview, but is there anyone you want to call out heading into the final race?
Well, I've got the video ready for Dylan again, so there we go. Me and Dylan, points don't matter in this championship. Me and Dylan are now 6-6 head-to-head in OE Division 2. That's what matters. So Dylan's washed, Ryan's washed. I beat him two times this week. Who else finished below me? Gary's washed. Who else is fast? J. Cole, you're washed. All of you. That's who I'm calling. I'm calling out everybody but Matt and Packer because they beat me. And I'm calling out Felipe
I thought you were going to
Massacre
call me out
because
for
he's been a thorn in
Spain,
my
but I
side.
guess not anyways.
Oh no, you broke my wing in Spain, and that's fine because I'm better than you. So, Felipe Massacre, he's getting a call out. He's been. I can't wait to meet him on track one day. He's been calling me out, so that'll be a good battle. But until then, I think I had a good race, you know.
Well, I think that's probably the best interview we've had so far this season. It's going to be difficult to top that unless Nolan gets back in for another podium. But thank you.
Next week, Zanport, ABS pad. It's coming on.
Yeah. Well, I'm expecting a win this time next week then. So, thank you so much for joining us in the comments box. Thank you to all 3 of you actually for joining us, and congrats to all 3 of you on the podiums today. Thank you as well to everyone that joined us in the stream today. It was a pretty eventful race, and it was absolutely brilliant to watch. Anything from you, Dan? Any final thoughts before we finish off?
I'm still recovering from that Nolan interview, to be honest. But
tell me you love me. Come on, tell me you love me. Just one time.
I'm deeply in love with you, mate.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Hey, this is getting a little more than PG-13, guys.
No, I think I was drunk at like 6 o'clock. I was drunk, and then
Aiden, call it.
Please wrap this up. Cut it now.
Yeah, let's round up the stream. We'll skip over Dan's final thoughts, but thank you so much to everyone for joining us the stream. Tune into obviously League of Europe for the rest of the week. Formula 2 runs, I believe, on Monday still, and we do have League of Europe Divisions 1 through 5 on Saturday this time next week at Zandvoort. 6:40 for Divisions 1, 3 and 4, and 8:10 for Divisions 2 and 5. Thank you to everyone for joining us, and we will see you in a week's time. Goodbye.